All right. We should be live.
Nice.
So yeah, so what's been going on? How's it been going?
It's been going pretty well. So I've been chatting with all kinds of people, from bigger companies, smaller companies. And yeah, I landed another sponsor, and they're going to sponsor to the tune of like $5,000.
Okay,
The approach that, and I think I outlined it last time, where I kind of have them ramp up and then just sponsor every third week.
Yeah.
That seems to be selling really, really well. People really like that approach, and it makes it really easy for them to sponsor some of the bigger shows because they're not having to outlay $15,000 or something to sponsor for.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, so it comes in within their price range. At the rate I'm going, I'm probably going to sell out JavaScript Jabber within a couple weeks of the beginning of the year.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Wow.
And if that's the case, then I may bump it back up to 2 episodes a week.
How many sponsorships have you sold in the last week, or how?
So I've had conversations with this last week I had conversations with like 6 or 7 companies. And it's funny because like a couple people, I sent them a message on LinkedIn and I got a reply right away.
Yeah.
And some people I called up and we kind of figured things out. And so it just kind of depends on where people make themselves available. So yeah, but that's worked out really, really well. I've got a few others that basically said, hey, we've looked at this, we definitely want to do it, we're going to make a call at the beginning of the year. So I'm just sending through so I've been using FreshBooks to send invoices, and they have a feature in there where you can send estimates instead of invoices. Not that you couldn't just edit the invoice, but it makes people more comfortable if it says estimate on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so if there's a show I think is a fit for them, then what I've been doing is I've just been sending them the estimate, and then they feel comfortable coming back to me and saying, instead of saying, no, we're not going to do it, what they do is they say, we only want to do this show and that show. And
right.
I tell them up front, I'm like, look, it's just an estimate. I'm putting all the shows I think would be a fit in there, and so then we can drop off whatever shows you don't want or change the schedule to fit what you've got going on. And then, once you're comfortable with the estimate or you tell me what you want, then we'll send you an invoice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's worked out really nicely. I've also gotten most of my team paid for the last couple of months, and they all stuck with me through it. And I told them all, I was like, look, I get it if you have to go do something else. And they were all like, nope, yeah. We believe in you.
Good. Okay. Well, that's good.
So yeah, so that's almost all caught up. And so, yeah, it looks like we're going to come out of the woods on this. And yeah, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I don't see any reason why I can't sell out by the end of January.
Awesome.
So
keep doing it then. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because on some of the smaller shows like Adventures in DevOps and stuff where they don't have as large an audience, by the way, that one's going to take off with the kind of people we've gotten, because we've talked to people from IBM, Oracle, a couple of other, big-ish companies. I'm starting to get some of the database vendors to come and talk to us about scaling those. Once we have it out there and we have people promoting it from some of those places, I think it's just going to take off like a rocket.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've kind of been selling the sponsorships based on the current level of traffic. But yeah, once it starts to really get a trajectory, I think that one, as I sell more sponsorships, the people who get in now are going to get a really great deal. And yeah, so at this point, my primary focuses are on finding sponsors, and then over the next couple of weeks, I am going to do the audio book, but that's kind of a short-lived project.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I'm working on is streamlining the processes. So I actually found a system I really like. It's called Trainual.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And I think we're just going to move our entire operating process over there. And that way I can just give access to my team. They can see what they need to see for the roles that they're in. And yeah, one of the first things that I'm going to be working on, because I'm going to put Michelle in there too. And I'm just going to be like, look, yes, we got some of it documented in Notion and some of it documented in Google Docs. And so we're going to bring it all together and we're going to put it all in one place.
Yep.
And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to document the whole process for finding sponsors. And then what I may do is, at the beginning of the year, I may actually go and pull some people, like just hire some people or see if one of the show notes writers who want a little bit more work, see if they're willing to go and do some of the prospecting work. And I'll just check on it. I'll work through it with them and check on it and make sure that it's getting done the way that I want. And then I need to just figure out some form of accountability, right? So that we get a report every week where we're saying, okay, there were this many people added to the system. There were this many people that got followed up with on LinkedIn or whatever. And yeah, just see how that all goes. But yeah, then if I have that sort of check-in accountability process, then this kind of thing won't slip anymore. Because if it does, I'll know it the week that it happens, and I can really push back and say, hey, look, no, you got to do your job here. You didn't tell me you were taking the week off, because if you had, I would have done it this week. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. That's good. Yeah, that's exactly what you need to get in place. This way you get the systems, and then you have the repeatability and you have the insight into the system. That's exactly what you need. So. And
I also decided to disregard your advice from last week, and I'm going to go forward with the Kickstarter on Codeneer.
No, don't do it.
No. Is the Kickstarter for the audio courses?
Yeah.
Dude.
I don't know, man.
No.
I mean, I'm going to put the Kickstarter up, and I'm not going to do anything with it until the end of February.
Yeah, but it's not. You've been through this before too. Remember the last Kickstarter that you did? And I mean, if you want to do a Kickstarter and be successful at it, you have to devote a lot of energy and resources into it. Otherwise, it's just a waste.
Okay, what's your rationale behind doing it? Maybe there is some good reason why you want to do it that John and I are totally.
So for one, I'm going to do the level of work that it takes to fill my sponsorships by the time the Kickstarter goes live. So I'm going to keep pushing and running and grinding. And so for the next 3 months, basically, the plan is just to, be 100% all in with the, streamlining the processes, making the accountability happen, and finding sponsors. And if I have the Kickstarter out there and can make it successful, then Q2 of 2020, we can work on getting all that stuff together and getting it running.
You're trying to run another business. Like the Codeneer thing is a totally different business, and all the verification and all of that stuff that you'll need to do. Even if you had a Kickstarter campaign and people bought, and I don't know what's the metric for success in this case. Let's say $10,000, $20,000, $100,000, million. I don't know. But let's say people bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Now the challenge is you have to run that damn business.
Yes, that's
which
true.
is different from this business. So now you have to fulfill two different businesses. And it's not that these businesses are like just same, like starting a new podcast. In this case, you're literally going and creating a whole infrastructure behind getting the people.
I understand this. Let me throw something else at you though. I felt like, because it's hard to know with everything that went down in October and November, it's hard to know how much of, sponsors not renewing and things like that can be attributed to any of that, because they aren't telling me that. I had one sponsor just out and out tell me, and it was mostly just, hey, you're controversial on Twitter. We don't want to be part of that. You're out, right? It wasn't we agree with them or we agree with you or anything else. But I feel like if I have recurring revenue from some other source, then I don't have to go through this again, because I feel like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? Eventually, it's going to come back around and kick me again. And I'd like to have a recurring source of revenue. So if it's not that, then what?
Well, okay. That's a valid argument, except for one major thing, which is that you just said now that you are able to fill up the slots, and if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to be able to fill up the slots.
Yeah, until something like this happens again.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
so those events, no matter what happens, they will take down all the businesses, not just this business. You will suffer in all the different dimensions of the business.
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like the sponsorships, I think these companies, the companies in our space, they aren't as resilient to this kind of thing as, some of the other industries. Like I listen to some of the political shows, and they have folks out there that are trying to get the, basically sponsors to boycott those shows, because they're constantly talking about stuff. And so they're a little more resilient to it, right? Because they get hit by it all the time. Okay, what's actually going on here? Did this host actually say this thing that, is going to splash back on us? In the tech space, these companies really don't encounter that as far as what media they're involved in. And so I guess my worry is that, that I might run into some of these issues again if something like this happens.
So it's like you are becoming Tiger Woods, but you're scared of becoming Tiger Woods. Like handling controversy and just going with it rather than worried about, oh shit, if I keep going down this path and have more controversy, then I won't be Tiger Woods anymore. Well, okay, so two responses to this. The other one being that don't start another business when the first one is not steady or is not profitable to the point you want. Like the number one killer of entrepreneurship in my books, and I've seen this in my life and I guess everywhere, is indigestion, not starvation.
Okay.
We start too many things. We start this, that. Especially if like one business is struggling and you start another business, now you're in for a lot of pain because you assume that the other business for some reason will succeed faster, better, easier than this business. I feel it's nothing more than the shiny object, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'll add one more.
Let me throw something else at you. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're essentially saying, look, you're trying to crawl out of the hole with that for the, that devchat.tv is in, and you're going to put this other business on your back, and that's not going to make it any easier.
Right. And I'll add to that, which is this, and this I can speak to you from experience, and this is my biggest caution against this, is that right now you might feel like you have the energy to take on the world, and you can do what you need to do selling the sponsorships and DevChat TV, and you can start this Kickstarter, and maybe even in 3 months, if you start this new business, you can run with both of them. But both of them will be on your back. You're not at the point where either of them is automated. And at some point, you're going to hit a week where you're going to feel depressed, where you're going to feel unmotivated. And it might be a month or it might be 2 months, because this happens. We know this.
Yeah.
And the only way to get through those periods of time is to tread water, is to ride it out. Right. And then eventually you come back and you start going hard again. This is the cycle of entrepreneurship.
Right.
If you have two businesses that are completely relying on you, that are taxing your time, and you go through that, they're both going to fail.
So what you're telling me to do is to wait until devchat.tv is running under its own power.
100%. Yes. Then you can essentially you know, until you can really get uh, almost like a CEO running DevChat TV. It doesn't have to be a CEO, but where it's automated, where literally you're spending a few hours a week running the business.
Yeah. No, that
Don't
makes
start
sense.
a new one.
Okay.
I'm all about starting the new one, but after that, because, you know, and again, I can say that also from personal experience because, you know, well, I mean, okay, so with Simple Programmer, it's fairly automated. There's not much that I have to do there, but
Right.
it stopped growing now. It's been like, it, I definitely would rather be just in one business.
Right.
That would have been a
Doing
better
just Bulldog Mindset or just Simple Programmer.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So let's say that I kick this down the road.
Mhm.
I mean, we're getting to the point now where we're actually moving our shows onto Podwrench. So do I start opening that up for beta testers, or do I wait again until devchat.tv is?
Until you become profitable and until you feel a sense of control in one business, you don't start another thing. Because
Right.
it's like you don't feel right now. I don't hear from you to like a sense of momentum, a sense of control, a sense of forward progress. That if I just do this one thing, it keeps churning money. You're still finding that. You're still finding that little those tweaks and nuances and all those things
Okay.
with regards to sponsorships and all those things. Until you get there, until you know exactly like I have to put 20 hours a week on this business for sponsorships and shows, and I know I will make this much money. Until you get there, don't start another freaking thing that will. As soon as you open up Podwrench, now you have support requests. Now you have challenges from potential, saying, "Hey, I'm paying you $15 a month, and you're not doing this for me. What the hell? Hey, I'm paying you $20 a month, and I need this," and you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole all over again. I think I was thinking about 2020 or 2019, and like the biggest lesson learned or lesson learned as a result of failures and setbacks and defeats and challenges, and that was focus. And I feel like inside of focus there is even more focus, and inside of that focus there is even more focus. Like it's not enough for me to say I'm in the book summary business. It's much more important if I say we actually use this marketing channel to make it work, and not only that, we do this kind of summary and this kind of summary only to make it work. Like the more sharper it is, the deeper the penetration. And I always like it's easy for me to talk around and other things only to realize just one thing. Just do that one thing until my systems and team and automation all are in place. Like I hired 3 writers so far, and until I get that to work properly, there's no way I should be starting another thing in the hopes of making money from it.
Okay. Yeah, I really want to do it, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
it's shiny object, man. It's shiny object.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's like this. Okay, I've got to use this. I think it's been a long time since we talked about it. Let's say you have some falling dominoes, okay? The first domino is 2 inches long or 2 inches tall. The second domino is 50% taller, so it's 3 inches tall. And the third domino is 50% taller than the second domino, so it's 4.5 inches tall, okay? So on and so forth. So dominoes keep on increasing in size by 50%. Now I give you enough energy, enough time, enough moment, enough energy units in the world to topple a total of 60 dominoes, 60, okay? I give you a lifetime of 60 dominoes to topple. You can do whatever you want. I give you 60 dominoes. So here's what person A chooses to do. He says, okay, I'm going to do 10 dominoes in this field, 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 and 10 dominoes in this field. So 6 different fields. I'm going to do dominoes. I'm going to topple 10 dominoes on each of those fields. And we know with the law of the domino effect that when you topple the first one, it will take down the second one, which is 50% larger than it. So this person, what he does is he goes after 5 different areas, like, okay, 6 different areas, 10 dominoes here, 10. Okay, so what's the height of the 10th domino, do you think? 2 inch, 3 inch, 4.5 inch, what's the height of the 10th? Take a guess.
If they grow,
50% every single time. 50% larger than the
so by the which domino?
10th.
The 10th?
Yeah.
It's probably bigger than I can fathom. It's got to be 50 foot
It's 2
or something.
inches, 3 inches, 4.5 inches, 6.75 inches.
Yeah,
What do you
but
think?
yeah, but once you get
10th.
once you get to the 10th, it's
2 to the power of 9
Yeah.
divided by 2, or it's
something like that. 2 to the
It's-
but 2 to the power
it's
of
1
9.
half to the power of 9.
Just give me the answer, guys. How many inches or how many feet?
It's
I
like
don't know.
it's like
It'll be-
150 inches or something.
It's simple. Okay, I'll do
10 foot.
How about I do it? How about I do the math for you? 2 inches, 3 inches, 4.5 inches, 6.75 inches, around 9.8 inches or 10 inches. Okay, 2, 3, 4.5, 6, 9, 10 inches, 15 inches, 22 inches, 33 inches, 45 inches, and 67. So
It's
the height of a man-
76 inches.
76. Okay, 76.
Yeah.
So the height of a human being, the height of a giant like John Steinmetz, right? So that's the topper. That's the length. That's the height of the domino you topple on the 10th domino. Okay.
Right.
So that's you decided you're gonna spend your domino energy or your life force on 5 different areas of life, and in each area you topple the domino the size of John Steinmetz.
Right.
Okay? Now comes this other guy. He says, I'm going to put all of my domino energy into just one streak of dominoes. Not 10, but 60. I
Yeah.
have 60 domino. You gave me 60 domino life force. I'm going to use all of those 60 domino. I'm just going to do it in one area, in just one focused field.
Mm-hmm.
How tall do you think is the 60th domino?
408,000.
No. Not calculating like, hang on. Chuck, what do you think?
But yeah, no, it's something like that. It's, I mean, now you're talking about basically that 72 or 76 inches, or 6'6"
Yeah, it's like
to the 6th power. So
is it like 6 guys of John's size?
no, it's like 6 million of John's size. It's some insane number like that.
Exactly. So that height is the distance from the Earth to the moon and back.
Yeah. So yeah. So what I need to be sinking my teeth into is just if I really want to do this and I really want to do this, then I need to get devchat.tv clicking along on its own.
Yes. If you want to build a sponsorship business, then damn fucking build a sponsorship business,
Yeah.
man. Don't screw around with other things, because they will just take away your life force, your domino force to build this into. Every business will inevitably run into challenges like you're running.
Yeah.
The question is, will you see through those challenges, or will you just find a new shiny object to go after?
Yeah.
There's a really interesting quote. Yesterday I was going through Todd Herman's 90-day year program again, and he said 2 things that were really, I've been thinking about a lot. He's like, he met Zuckerberg one time. He literally met him like 10 years ago, when Zuckerberg was still pretty new, or even 15 years ago. And he asked him, so how did you make it so successful? Zuckerberg said that the secret to our success is identifying one goal and just focusing on it to the exclusion of everything else.
Yep.
And what Todd Herman said, which I love even more, is the recipe for staying stuck is doing too many things at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like technical debt.
Yeah. All right.
It's classic entrepreneurial challenge.
You jerks have convinced me.
Let it stick this time. Get to $1 million of revenue and have $100,000 in the bank, and then we'll talk.
Fair.
At $1 million of revenue, you should have more than $100,000 in the bank. But yeah,
I think 10% cash on hand is good for this kind of business, but But yeah, regardless.
In the bank's business. Oh, in the business's bank, not in your bank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the business's bank.
bank.
So,
I think it's there is so much opportunity with what you're doing. You're just running into a lean patch, but this is when you really need to go through it rather than just run away from it.
Yeah, I do. I need to just.
You're scaring you're allowing yourself to choose another struggle.
Yeah.
Or let me put it this way. So there's two kinds of persistence. There is persistence of width and persistence of depth. A lot of entrepreneurs fall into the category of persistence of width. That is, let me try this, let me try that, let me try this, let me try that. I'm going to try this business, I'm going to try that business, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And you're seeking, the challenge with that is you're seeking opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You're seeking opportunity. You're hoping one of them will stick. But the truth of business is that nothing will stick. You have to goddamn make it stick. And that's like the fundamental distinction we have to make in our heads, that nothing will stick. I just have to stick to one thing to make the damn thing stick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nothing, there's no magic business model that will just work. Every business model will have the same challenges, same frustrations, same problems. You will run into the same kinds of issues, cash flow issues, and profitability issues, and all those things. The question is, do you want to stick with it and make it work, or do you want to try another thing and make that work?
And the thing is to make the machine as simple as possible, because, and that's what I've learned, is because then you can tweak it and you have less variables, right? The more variables you have, the harder it is to know what's going on, the harder it is to measure the results, the harder it is to perform any kind of tests. So, and that's been like, again, with the Bulldog mindset, that company now is almost as large as Simple Programmer in less than a year of starting and the reason why is because it's simple. Even though Simple Programmer is called simple, Bulldog mindset is simple because it only has one thing. There's only one way in. There's a quiz. There's only one email sequence. That's it. There's only one product. It's a membership, and that's it. And because it's so simple, I can constantly work on one goal, one objective, getting people to go and take the quiz. That's it. And then from there, getting them to buy the membership, and that's it. And I've been able to optimize the steps along the way. And that's just like, I know exactly what needs to be done, right? It's so simple. That's and that's the key. And this, with Simple Programmer, the issue is there's so much crap. There's so much stuff. It's all over the place. And that's why it stopped growing and it stalled out. So
are you going to call it Complex Programmer now?
Yeah. Man, so check this out. So I did so I've been doing on the YouTube channel for Bulldog Mindset. I've been telling people, if you turn on notifications and you comment on the video, then once a week I'm going to randomly award someone as a winner of a Bulldog Mindset membership. And the goal was really to get people to turn on notifications and then also to watch videos through to the end, because you never know when I'm going to make the announcement, right? And for the most part, it worked okay, but not so great, because even though a lot of people, I'm getting tons of comments on the videos and people are turning on notifications, it's not enough of an impact when you consider that the channel has 217,000 subscribers. If 1,000 people do this, it doesn't really make that much of an impact in the watch time or any of that stuff. So that wasn't as effective as what I thought. But all these people that are jumping on, that are commenting Notification Squad and jumping on the videos and trying to win a membership, they're excited. Every time a video comes out, they comment as quick as they can because they want the membership. So what it ended up doing was it ended up building a desire for the membership, because the membership is couched as a prize, right? And it also gave me the opportunity to keep on advertising the benefits of the membership as I'm awarding this as a prize. So what I did was, yesterday I had a video come out. I recorded a video. I was like, okay, how can I make this situation work? So I said, I made a video called "If you didn't win the membership, watch this video," for all the people that didn't win, right? And I said, hey, you know, I can't give away a free membership to everyone. I wish I could, you know, but it wouldn't be fair to people who are paying, and it's just not feasible. And I'm only giving away, you know, like one membership a week. And if you didn't win, I've got an opportunity for you. If you really want to get into the membership, I'm going to give you a special offer of a $7 monthly trial. You can get into the membership for $7. So I gave them the trial, right? And yesterday I got 29 new members, and 3 today so far from that one video.
How many views on that?
Let me see if I can see what the views are. It's not even that many. It's like, where is it? 762 views.
And who said YouTube can't sell?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it worked. It worked in this case. So
It works, man. It works. It's amazing.
yeah. So I'm sitting at now, that kicked me way over the 10. My recurring revenue for Bulldog Mindset now is at like 10.8K and almost 400 members, at 390 members right now in the membership. So, but yeah, that worked. And the offer I was talking about last week, how the offer matters. Like that $7 trial, people are jumping all over that because they're, you know, that's just, it doesn't seem like that much of a difference to me, but that's working. The other thing I'm doing with this too is every single new member that comes in, I'm sending them a Bonjoro, a personalized video, and my call to action is for them to join the Facebook group and to get involved in the community there, to like introduce themselves. So I'm onboarding them with that. And then I'm going to be running a test now. I set it up for an automation so that, so basically when people subscribe to the email list in general, 50% of them I'm going to send a personalized Bonjoro to. And I want to see in about a month to see if that increases conversions, and if it does, by how much. Oh, I also found out, Manny, with the Bonjoros, you can automatically tag. You can just use a zap. So I set up a zap so that when Bonjoro, when they read a message or they watch a video in Bonjoro, that it tags them as watch the video.
Oh, that tag. I didn't know about, I wasn't really thinking about that tag.
Yeah, so I can.
Yeah,
I can track
BombBomb
them.
does that too. It'll tell you if they opened the email and if they watched the video,
which you can then zap into your email program and then tag them, which is what I'm doing. So now I can tell
I should do
who's,
that.
yeah, so I can tell who's watched the video. So then I can, you know, select out of there and check to see if it's actually increasing the conversion rate.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, to some cream.
But yeah, so anyway, that's been pretty successful so far. I've added so many members in December. It's insane.
It's what
I'm trying to think. Let me see how much the total members, like new subscriptions for Bulldog Mindset membership for December is 153 so far.
it's not even.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of lessons in here. One of which is the fact that progress is like the ultimate game in business in many ways. You can figure out a way to make progress in one dimension. You just keep going after it, right? You don't change that mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just keep on going, right? There's no point in doing something different. As long as this continues to grow, it's fine.
You just need to find the thing that you can consistently make progress on, or where you can find momentum on, and then you just double, triple, quadruple, 100x down on it.
Yep.
Rather than searching for an answer. which is what most entrepreneurs get stuck with. And I think the challenge in many ways is the assumption that somehow there's a better thing out there than what we're doing. And I'm in the board as much as Chuck is, because I've been fucking around with that shit as well, trying different things rather than just sticking with the book summary model in many ways, and just making that work and streamlining that and taking out the efficiencies and inefficiencies in that model.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, just talking to you guys, it's pretty obvious that yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to get that horse running, and then get somebody else in the saddle, and actually do the work to make sure that they get it, they're doing it right, that it's getting done.
Yeah.
Right. And then I can, once I'm off that horse and I don't have to show up to every podcast on devchat.tv, then I can go chase this other project.
And here's another question for you. Would you really want to run off to another business when this business is churning and doing so well, and this business is generating millions in revenue? Would you really want to go find another business to run? You're just, in this moment, you feel like you want to go run on the other business, but if you were making progress like what John's doing right now, would you really want to start another one? Would John want to start another one right now?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I feel like this particular project is in line with how I want to help people, but yeah, I don't know the answer to that beyond that, right? And
Yeah, that's
some of this I think it's a fair question in the sense that, are you doing this because things aren't great right now, or are you interested in it because you think it'll, it's what you want to do? And I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
Yeah.
Because it feels right and it sounds right, but yeah.
But once that's a bridge you can cross when you get to it, right?
Yeah.
You just have to get to the next, the next step. What's the next logical step, right? The next logical step for you is filling up the current sponsorships. That's it. Once you do that, then, I mean, I guess with that, along with that is developing the process to keep them filled, right? So from there, then you can decide where you want to go, but get there first.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And that's what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the goal and basically be like, look, these are the guidelines that I have to have in, guidelines for what I have to have in place before I go start looking at this other project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, and we'll see what happens. I think Manny might be right. If you were to get DevChat TV to the point where you were doing, let's say 100K a month in revenue, I don't know if you'd want to be doing anything else. I think you'd probably be wanted to double down on that even more, but we'll see. I mean, let's get there first, and then you can always decide. So
yeah, it's a fair question, but I don't know.
Yeah. And that's why, like, the objective of the reason why I asked that, or the reason why I wanted to put that in play, is because I would not go in with the mindset of, let me create systems and put people in place so I can go do other thing, because that's a very different mindset coming in compared to saying, let's just make this business just crazy as successful and take it to 10 million and make it a media empire and sell it, or not even sell it, make it 100 million. Like, it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Do you want to escape this business, or do you want to make it a giant success? Both are possible.
No, I want to ride two horses with one rear end.
Exactly.
Because it sounds like fun. No, you're right. And again, I had people offer to buy DevChat and I didn't want to sell it. And so, I mean, this is what I want to do. But yeah, I'm in the thick of doing some stuff that's not fun, or it is fun most of the time, but it wears me out doing all of it, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'll get there. You'll get through it. You just got to
Yeah.
grind it out for now, and then you'll have the processes in place too, and then that'll be key, because then it won't require you for at least for a large portion of it. So
Well, yeah, then back to the point that Manny's making, then I can say, okay, what parts of this do I want to do? Are there other aspects of this or things that I want to add on to what we're doing that I want to do? Or, how do we make this all better, or, whatever, but I can make those calls, because the obvious thing right now is go find more sponsors, go make sure that everything keeps running, blah, blah, blah. And when that's not the case, then I can say, okay, where do I want to focus my energy? And it could be on, adding a new aspect of what I'm doing like this, which really is another business, or, saying, okay, I'm going to focus in on making this other thing, run better or more profitable or more fun or more interesting or whatever. So,
I've been thinking a lot about this topic, and that's why this is definitely started to rankle me.
no, it's fine. I don't mind you telling me I'm being dumb.
No, it's actually, as much as I'm talking to you, I'm also talking to me.
well, this is the problem that all of us have, right? I was talking
Yeah.
about this last week. We
Yeah.
all, if there's one problem that we all have, it's this problem. This is the key, and it's not just localized to us, right? This is just one of the biggest
Oh, it's
problems that
human nature.
entrepreneurs face, is that they want to do a lot of things instead of keeping it simple and doing one focused thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I was looking at. Okay, so this is one of the things I have now, as we're getting into 2020. I'm questioning, or I'm trying to figure out how I can be more focused in the business, because I was looking at last year's, like, I literally went month by month by month. I looked at my Kanban flow, looked at my calendar, and looked at all the things I did, like all the things I did in my business. What have I been doing for the last 12 months, literally, right? And what I found was that, okay, so I spent time on email marketing, doing book summaries, affiliate deals, YouTube videos, podcasts, and some of the coaching stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm racking my head. I'm like, what is it that I would have to cut out at this point to get more singular focus? Because it feels like all of these are kind of part of the business now, and it's the only thing I can think of is having my team doing a lot of those things. So that'll create my time to focus on the book stuff and things like that. But
Well, here's kind of a general rule of thumb that I've sort of come up with for spending time. There's certain things you should spend time on, and there's certain things you should spend money on. You should spend money on things that are one-time events, or have a one-time effect, right? So for example, let's say that you are let's say a good example would be an email campaign to do a sale. Let's say a Black Friday sale.
Uh-huh.
It's a one-time thing that generates you money. You should spend money on that instead of time. You should hire someone to do that and have them run it and do it, because it only has a direct payback of X number of dollars. Now,
yes and no, because there's the business's voice involved, and
No. That has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with that. Only has to do with what makes logical sense as far as where you should put your time or money. If you're talking about creating a brand new book summary package that you're going to sell, you should spend time on that, because that has a repeated effect, right? And until you can get to the point where you can actually spend money on it and have someone else create it, which again is a one-time event. But the whole idea behind this is that you are the architect of the business, and your time should be spent architecting things, creating systems, processes, repeatable things, because then your time gets multiplied. Whereas you can always spend money to leverage someone else's time, and that doesn't have to be repeated. If every week that I pay, for example, Rodrigo to edit videos, that's great. But his editing of videos doesn't echo through time. My creation of those videos does, and so it's worth my time to create them, but not to edit them, right? The creation is a one-time event. Someone mowing my lawn is a one-time event, right? You know, those are the things that you should be spending your money on, is those one-time events that could be, because otherwise you'll spend so much time in your business. Like if you take, you know, what you said, like where should you focus? It should be on the things that create long-term value in the business, not short-term value. Short-term value you can pay for.
Okay, so then there are very few things in the business that you, in a business like this, that you can actually pay for, until, of course, now that I have a team and I'm like, I have the writers, so I can do this thing a lot more effectively, which is the summarize, like parts of the summarization ports and all those things. But the business kind of is dependent on my voice, right? On my
I hear what you're saying, Manny, you know, as far as like, yeah, the voice of the business and the way that you've reached out to people, you kind of want that to be consistent, right? So that the messaging is the same, the feel is the same. You know, it's not like this, oh, wait, this is, you know, this feels different than what I usually get from Manny. But the flip side is that like organizing the points and making sure that you understand, you know, how the sales process works and things like that. You can actually hire somebody to come in and do a lot of that. And then you can go in and you can say, okay, now I'm just going to work it over into my voice. And unless there's something about your voice that speaks directly to how you organize things and put that stuff together, you can hire somebody to do that. And if there is specifically, you know, I always make, you know, 3 or 4 points, or I always, you know, do this or that, and it's kind of, you know, my thing, you can explain that to a writer and have them put that together. The other thing that I've been learning too is that if you have a good copywriter, they can go and read through some of the other stuff that you've written or said, and they can actually mimic your voice. And then you can just read through it. And what I tend to do is just read that stuff aloud, and it becomes readily apparent. Yeah, I never would have said that way. And so then you fix those couple of issues and you're a lot closer to where you needed to be. And, you know, yeah, you've short circuited a lot of that work. So I think there's an aspect to this where you actually can, you know, pay somebody to do that stuff.
Well, and then break it down. Like, what are the pieces of the business again that where you spent time in your question? Like, break it down step by step. Which pieces?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that I'm working on too, right? You know, back to the idea of an email campaign. I would really, really love, as part of my process, to work something out so that it's, you know, when we have a really popular podcast episode, or when we, you know, when there's a topic that I get asked about a lot, that I have a process for writing the email campaign. So it's not just, you know, Chuck, sit down and write 4 or 5 emails about whatever topic, but it's, okay, the first email is going to follow this format, and the second email is going to follow this format, and the third email is going to follow this format and have a call to action. And the 5th email, you know, and so, you know, go find an affiliate is part of that, or go find, you know, whatever. And, you know, go find 3 courses and 2 books that you can recommend, even if you can't get an affiliate on them. Right. And so people get used to getting resources and recommendations and stuff from you. whatever, and so you can break the process down as well, and then you can have people go do at least that legwork, even if you're not going to have them write the overall email. But there are parts of that you can still farm out, that you can still hand off, that are these one-off things that are going to save you a bunch of time and effort when you're writing out an email campaign or anything else.
Yeah.
I think one way to look at it too is, instead of saying where should I focus my time, instead what should the output of the business be?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's a more clear way, because you're in the forest right now and you need to be seeing, you're seeing the trees, you need to be seeing the forest, right? So the forest view says, well, for the year 2020, for example, 2,000 books should create 6 new book summary packages or whatever it is. And if that's your output, now you work backwards from there and say, how does this best get done? Maybe the answer is you just do it by yourself and make 6 book summary packages, right? Whatever it is, right? Or maybe the answer is that you hire people or that you train them or whatever it is, so that you can produce the output that is required to get you to the business goal. And part of that output will also be, there'll be processes that are attached to it, right? So, okay, let's say that we say the goal for 2020 is 6 new book summary packages must be created. Well, attached to each new book summary package is that they must have a way that they are integrated into the sales sequence, that they have a marketing campaign for them, whatever is attached to that, right? There's a bunch of things that, the website must be updated for them, right? What constitutes a full release of a book summary package, right? Group that into the set of things that must happen for it to be marked as done, complete. And then work backward from there and say, okay, well, what's the most efficient way to deploy the resources? You're one of the resources of the business in order to accomplish this task. And I think that's the way to look at it, rather than looking at where you're spending your time, because you'll be focused on the outcome instead, which is going to lead you to the direction that you need to go.
Yeah, actually, yesterday I was thinking about, what if the goal was only creating 20 book summaries a month, and everything else, if it happened, it happened, it didn't happen, it didn't happen. But that was the stated goal of the business in some ways for 2020. And yeah, 20 book summaries a month for 240 books would be 6 packages. Kind of, we're talking the same metric. So it's almost like we're going back to that discussion where you're producing 50 plural side courses or 52 plural side courses, right?
Yeah.
Your goal was just to produce 1 course a week, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't
1.5 weeks, every 1.5 week. Yeah.
Every 1.5 weeks. Well, so it wasn't so much of thinking about what you were going to focus your time, energy on, and what you were going to cut out. It was just like, how do I make this happen?
Right.
And there are 2 different questions.
Right. And it led to an efficiency of process, right? Because for every course, there were certain things that needed to be done every single time, which allowed me to create a repeatable system, which allowed me to also hire someone to help me to do some of the things like the editing, the packaging of the thing to submit it to them. And then I also had to know, I had to have at least 1 week in advance, what is the next course I'm going to be working on, so that I could immediately, so I had to have a list of those things, so that it constrained my output to specific things that I must do that have to be accomplished. And so
how do you, okay, so now that we're talking about this, when you have 1 metric, 1 KPI, or 1 significant goal for the business for the year, but there are other supporting things that you must do to make the business work. For example, creating YouTube videos and podcast episodes and all of those things. How do you sacrifice the other in pursuit of the one, or you have multiple goals? How do you balance those things?
I like to look at it as the 80-20 of the main goal versus the long shots, like the long term investment, and to put about 20% into the long term that has no immediate payback. So you just come up with a quota for how many YouTube videos or podcast episodes you're going to do per week or per month or whatever it is, and you make that part of it, but it should be about 20% rather than or whatever the balance is going to be. But I think about 20% makes the most sense, and then you do that along with it. But you could also just sacrifice that, and you could just work on the thing that is effective, right? I like the idea of leaving the 20% because it's the runway for the future, right? That's what's going to increase things in the long term, is when you put in this, the things that benefit from the compound effect. These are the things that benefit from the compounding effect, is creating new YouTube videos, podcast episodes, because you're growing the audience.
Okay, that's fair. When you create quotas, it's one thing to create quota on one part of the business, but when you have 5 different quotas, which one do you really answer to, or which one, can you start prioritizing quotas, in which case the quota has no real value anymore, because you just have a bunch of quotas and one quota suffers at the hand of the other?
No, because if it's in a quota, it must be done. It's life or death. There's no
Right.
choice. It
So
must happen.
So that's good when you have one priority, but when you have 5 different quotas, then
Then you have a problem.
then you have a problem, right?
Well, I don't think so. I've been operating this way for many, many years, and I haven't had a problem. It's just, so
Yeah,
if
it's
I
fine
have
as
to-
long as you don't overcommit, I guess.
Yeah, you can't overcommit. You have to, or if you do, you have to pay the price, right? So, I mean, there's been weeks, I remember when I was doing the Pluralsight courses, and I still needed to get a blog post and a YouTube video done, because I think my quotas at the time was 1 blog post, 1 YouTube video, and then so many modules for the Pluralsight course, 3 modules a week, right? And there were times where it was a shitty week, and I ended up staying up all night to get the blog post done so I could meet the quota, right? It's like, it wasn't every week. I mean, most weeks I could get it done, within 50, 60 hours, get everything done. But there were some weeks where it was like I had to put in the extra time in order to make the quota, and I did. But for the most part, you should be able to hit the quota. But because you make it life or death, you're going to hit it. You're never going to miss it.
Well, okay, so let's take Chuck's example. We can tell him, hey man, your quota is to do XYZ number of calls every week, or XYZ number of outbound calls to make these sponsorships happen and all that stuff. And Chuck says, oh, I also want to do the Kickstarter campaign. So we say, okay, your quota on Kickstarter is to do this on Kickstarter. And he says, oh, I also want to do Podwrench. So we say, okay, your quota is to do this on the Podwrench. So then you can easily say, okay, Chuck has made it life or death to make all of these quotas work. But that would probably kill all of his businesses.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so the issue is of doing too many things, right? It's like you need the optimum balance of having the things that will of the short term. Well, okay, so there's 3 things that you have, right? You have the immediate short term, right, which is survival. You have the medium short or medium term, which is like within 1 year, that will benefit you,
Right.
and then you have the long.
That's your short-term growth and things like that. One
Right.
thing that I'm curious about, and this is related to that, is I have sort of the leading indicators, and then I have tailing indicators, and this comes out of like 12-week year and stuff like that. So you commit to doing the leading indicators, like the initial sponsor outreach, right? So that's the prospecting level stuff. And then, maybe I have a certain level of, follow-up, right? And so I commit to spending a certain amount of time or doing a certain number of follow-up activities, right? Based on what I have in my queue. But, like sponsorship calls, that's entirely dependent. Well, it's entirely dependent on my follow-up, but it's also dependent on whether or not somebody actually clicks the link and gets on my calendar. And so when it gets down to that kind of a thing, then you know, I don't want to set a quota for the number of sponsorship calls I have, because you know, I don't have complete control over that, but I do have complete control over how much follow-up I do and how much prospecting I do. So how much of this is based on those leading indicators like the prospecting and the follow-up versus the tailing indicators like the sponsorship calls and the amount invoiced and stuff like that? Because it feels like the latter is more goals, right? And I'll do what I have to reach the goal, as opposed to a commitment to spend so much time every week reaching out to new companies, etc.
Well, let me give you an example. So, okay, so here's when I had a goal. I wanted to have 100,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't call that a goal. I call that an aspiration, because the goal has to be something you have direct control over.
Okay.
I don't have direct control over getting 100,000 subscribers. So
Right.
what I said was,
So a goal is I'm going to run a marathon. I have direct control over that, barring getting hurt.
Exactly. So what I said was, okay, in order to achieve this aspiration, what goal could I set that would give it a 99% chance of success?
Okay.
Right. So, you know, we'd say the same thing if I wanted to earn $1 million, right? I can't achieve that. That's not within my control. So I said, if I have 2,000 videos on my YouTube channel, I'll probably have 100,000 subscribers, because I don't know any YouTube channels that have 2,000 videos that don't have 100,000 subscribers. So I set my goal to create 2,000 videos. And then I said, okay, if I want to achieve this goal within the next year or 2 years, how many videos do I need to create per week? And the answer was 15, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to create 15 videos per week, right? So 2 videos a day and 3 on one day, or, you know, basically 15 per week was the goal. So I set that as a quota, and then I just worried about creating 15 videos per week, and that was it. And that was what got me to that, right? So I worked backwards from what I knew would be likely to do that, and then I did the one thing I controlled, the action for that, right? So if you looked at it in terms of leads, you might say, yeah, I'm not in direct control over how many calls I can have with follow-up calls.
Right.
But if you know that in order to fill your sponsorship slots, you need to on average have 10 follow-up calls a week, or if that's what you've basically figured out, then you can extrapolate and say, out of how many people I contact, do I get a follow-up call? Is
Right.
it 1 out of 10? Well, if it's 1 out of 10, that means I need to put 100 leads in the funnel and contact them every single week, because out of that, I expect to get 10 follow-up calls. And out of that, I expect to get 2 sponsorships. And that's, I mean, you just take that for any piece of your business, right? It's the same thing. Like, we could apply it to Manny's business as far as the book summaries. Well, shit, I want to sell this many book summaries. Well, okay, well, you know, there's a couple of different things you could do. You could say, well, if I create this many book summaries, then my existing customers will on average buy this many. So this is how many book summaries I need to create this year. And this is how I could break that down and say how many books I need to summarize per week, right? Or whatever that, you know, metric you want to use there. But you can always break it down, and it's the same thing, but you might have a couple of, so that's, again, might be your medium term goal for the business. But then you might have the long-term goal of, like, because there's several operations of the business, right? There's actually 3 operations. One is lead generation. The second one is marketing and sales. And the third one is fulfillment, right? And so all 3 of those have to be operating, and they all should have some kind of goal. Now, you could put one on pause. If you have really good lead generation, maybe you don't need to do anything this year to increase your lead generation. But if you don't do anything, it won't grow. Right. That's just the truth of it. Right. For the sales, maybe you have a great funnel already in place, and you have marketing and sales automated systems in place, and you don't need to do anything there. Right. And so maybe all you need to do is just do product fulfillment. and you can do that. So you kind of have to decide, right, and not handicap yourself. So that's where I would come up with the goals, is to say, okay, well, in your case, Manny, you obviously need to keep on doing lead generation. You need to increase your YouTube channel size and your audience reach so that you can increase your total customer base. So you need to have some quota that's going to help you to do that around creating YouTube videos or wherever you're going to focus on lead generation. For the sales automation, you probably don't need much. You already have a selling system in place. You probably don't need to focus on improving that. So I might not even put any goals around that this year, right? Instead, the bigger leverage point is the product fulfillment. If you create more products, you'll create more revenue. So you could set some goals around that. And so between those two, you would divide your time. Whereas you wouldn't, pick 15 different types of goals all over the place, right? You would just have those. And then maybe like after you've created so many book summary products, maybe you get to the point where it's like, okay, creating new book summary products does not actually increase my revenue very much. But if I focus on improving my marketing, it would be leverage against the now 50 book summary packages I have. And so I'm going to spend my focus on improving that every week or whatever it is. So that's how I would look at it.
Yeah. So it's almost like you need one overriding goal to really be able to hold yourself accountable to the metric, or one overriding. It's like what OKRs. What's the name of the book? Measure What Matters, right?
Mhm.
Objective and key results. If there was only one objective, I need to define that one objective, and then I can define the key results, right? And it's not good to define that objective as a revenue metric because that's not a controllable. Though in case of Google, one of the metrics they used was 1 billion hours of watch time in a day or something like that. Or 1 billion minutes of watch time in a day or something like that. Was the metric they used, was the OKR, was the objective.
Yep.
Now, is that the question is, what kind of objective is because you want a lead metric, not a lag metric, as Chuck, what you were talking about, the leading goals versus lagging goals.
Yeah. But John did spell out that, and it makes sense, right? That you can extrapolate that into those lag goals, especially if you have good numbers.
And you just got to do the thing that will work, right? That's that if you just consistently apply this force, that you will get the result.
The lead metric is what is the work you do. Lag metric is the results you get. The question is, should you have multiple, like I guess I'm trying to clarify in my own head, should I have multiple goals or should I just have one overriding clear goal that I drive throughout the year and everything else kind of supports that cause? And usually when it comes down to that granularity, it's a revenue goal, everything else, but then it's not a process-oriented goal and it can really screw with your brain.
You can't really have a revenue goal, I don't think. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's aspirational. So you need controllable goal,
but
one controllable goal rather than many controllable goals is the question.
Yeah, but right. I think having an aspiration to a revenue level, that's going to drive some of that creativity, right? Because then it's okay, well, to make this revenue, I need this many products, that make me this amount of money. So then but then you can break it down to a goal. Okay, so if I create this many products, because that's a goal that you have full control over, and I do all the work to make sure that it sells properly, which is, again, a lot of that's leading and some of it's lag, then I should be able to make that revenue hit that spot.
The key, it's like this. It's like, remember that stupid game that where you have like the tank, right? And you get to set the angle, and you're like, okay, 75-degree angle, and I'm applying this much power, and you shoot a
Oh,
shell,
yeah.
right? And you try to hit the other tank. You know what I'm talking
Uh-huh.
about, right? That's what it is. That's what we're playing, right? And
Yep.
so you need to just like say, okay, based on where I am in the business, this is my trajectory. I'm going to shoot at 75 degrees angles, and I'm going to apply this much power, and
And I'm going to shoot this kind of weapon.
exactly. And then you spend 3 months taking the shot, and then you afterwards look and say, okay, all right, did this work, or where do I need to make an adjustment? And then you make the adjustment, and then you spend 3 months taking the shot again, instead of making the adjustment every single fucking day, which drives you nuts, and then you don't get any work done. So, that's the thing, is like, you can't always be perfect in what you guess, but you got to put on the worker hat. You got to take off the entrepreneur hat and put on the worker hat and just work. So you
Mhm.
just make an educated guess and say, well, you know what, I guess in the next, whatever it is, maybe you do a 6-month or a year time frame, or 3 months, whatever you feel comfortable with. But if you say, even if you said for the next 3 months, I'm just going to focus on just producing courses, on producing summaries, and that seems to be the best thing that I could possibly do. And then you just do that for 3 months, and then you measure the results afterwards, and you say, okay, I was off, I need to adjust this. But you just got to like make some decision, come up with the plan, and then just execute the plan, and stop questioning the plan for that interval of time. Like, you're just going to do it. You're just going to execute whatever you planned. Because the thing is, you keep going back to the plan and keep on, saying, oh, I'm going to change this, or I'm going to do this now, instead of just executing. Whereas if you just executed for 3 months, you would have way more success, because you would have an actual, a track
And that's
record.
what I like about 12-week year too, is it's like, look, I'm committing to this for 3 months, and then, right, and then I can change the plan,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, then you don't have to think about, oh, am I working on the right thing? Because unless it's immediate and gigantic, you can say, okay, well, if I push this off for a month, do I lose this massive opportunity? And the answer is usually not really.
Okay, so I just had a realization. As I was looking at the year over the last 12 months, and I saw I was doing all of these different things, like email marketing and trying to figure out doing the book summaries and this and that. The big killer wasn't so much that that the business had a giant new objective. The business always had the objective of the book summary process. What was happening was my decision-making process had become too granular. So almost every day or every week, I would allow myself to ask, what should I do today?
Right.
What should have instead happened is my decision-making process should have been more like a monthly or a quarterly. It's like, this is what I'm doing, and there's no more decisions. Like literally, the switch, making a decision and then switching to new thing, and then making a decision and switching to new thing, and then making a decision and switching to new thing is more exhausting than doing the damn thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Right? It's mentally, physically draining to constantly question if you're doing the right thing or if you should be doing something else.
And there's many people who have made horrible decisions, but then just executed on them and have become wildly successful, rather than people who have made expert decisions and have failed to execute for long enough and have ended up failing, right?
Well, doing the work has always been the hack. I mean, this
Yeah.
isn't new.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I think the granularity of decision making has to become much more bigger in our businesses in some ways, as we learn more about business and as we get into higher and higher level of business. Like, we cannot be dilly-dallying with the stupid daily decision making of what should I do today. That's just a bad, like, as soon
Right.
if we are operating like that, we're just way too reactive, right? The business cannot grow if every day you're asking yourself, what should I do?
No,
Yeah.
you have to know. That's why the quotas are so useful.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and the more bigger, like not just daily, but weekly, but then not just weekly, but monthly. Like if I know exactly what needs to be done this month and I forgot about everything else and I just put on the blinder and say, this is what I have to do for the month and fuck everything else, I'd probably make a whole lot more progress than every day asking myself, what should I do today?
Yeah, well, and that's the point that they make again in 12-week year. I'm surprised I'm recommending a book to you, but I am.
No, I actually like the book. I have read it and I've enjoyed it
Yeah.
a lot.
But they talk about, yeah, so then if you execute 80% of the stuff on your list for the day in your 12-week year, you still make a ton more progress against a singular goal than you would otherwise.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a commitment to a goal that we are scared of, that actually we need to do more than anything else. Like we need to be in CEO mode once a week or once a month, maybe once a
Yeah.
week at best, and in worker B mode, as in think of ourselves as a resource for the rest of
Exactly.
the time. Unfortunately, what I end up doing, or what I think every entrepreneur gets stuck with, or a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck with, is the idea that every day I'm a fucking CEO.
Right. Exactly. You can't do that. Can't do that. Can't change
Every
the
day,
plan.
every day you're making new plans. Because if every day you have the opportunity to be CEO, you will fuck around with that.
Right.
You will change things up.
So let me give you an example. Here's a perfect example, right? And Chuck, you
By
can
the way,
relate
I
to
need to
this.
bail soon. So
Okay, yeah, same here.
10 minutes.
So when I trained for a marathon, right? I had a 16-week marathon training program. Okay. It's on paper. It's all planned out ahead of time. I know exactly what run I'm going to do on Saturday, what I'm going to do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday for 16 weeks.
What plan is this that you ran? Just because I
Oh, I did
Looking
the Hal Higdon Intermediate 2, I think was the one that I did for the last marathon. But the whole point is that you've got that 16-week plan,
Yeah.
right? And you just execute on that. You don't have to make it this. If I tried to train for a marathon by saying, okay, every day when I wake up, I'm going to decide how far should I run today. And then I'm going to look and I'm going to say, well, how far did I run yesterday? How many miles have I run this week? Right. I wonder if I should do hills today, or like, it would be a mess. Maybe I could train for a marathon doing that, but it would be so stressful and so much of a pain in the ass and a waste of time and computation power, instead of just planning it all out ahead of time and then just executing it. You know, it's so much easier to train for a marathon when all you know is all I gotta do is get up, and whatever it says on the calendar to do today, that's what I do. And that's how business should run as well.
So the big question for a business is the frequency of decision making, or the lack of frequency of decision making, right? How infrequently can you make decisions? Or let's put it this way, a business that makes less frequent decisions will win,
Right.
because it's not reactive. It's almost going to the Amazon principle of like not worrying about even the quarterly reports, or what the investors are doing to the stock and all of that shit, because they're thinking 20 years down the line rather than responding to the stock market every freaking quarter.
It's the smack thing, right? From the Great by Choice. Don't
Smack.
change it.
Yeah, the 20-mile march.
Mhm. Yep.
So the 20-mile march followed by the SMAC.
Yep.
Specific, measurable, attainable. I forget now. What was it?
Specific, measurable, attainable, constant or consistent, or
Consistent.
I'm not sure, but
SMAC. It was SMAC. Yeah.
Yeah.
SMAC, SMAC. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
May I suggest a theme for next meeting, if everyone's going to be on the call?
Sounds good. Yeah. What?
Lessons for 2019.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good.
We'll think through all of the lessons, maybe even make a list of 5 so we can actually talk about them.
I think lessons learned for 2019. Mine's going to be people are assholes on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's external. We're talking internal.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We're talking the stoic mindset. What's within my control, what's outside my
No, that's
control.
fair. And really focusing on the other stuff, it really didn't help anyway. So
I know, I'm
Sounds
just, I know you already know that. I'm just,
I know I was being sarcastic.
yeah.
All right. Should we do our thoughts for the week? Um,
Okay, here's my thought. If you are an entrepreneur, you need people to talk to about these things in business because nobody has all the answers and everyone, like, you need the perspective to really fine tune your answer. And a lot of the answers come from conversation, not so much from just writing. Yeah, sometimes writing can help, but you need that back and forth to clarify your own thinking. A lot of times when we're having these conversations and I'm talking to Chuck, I'm actually talking to myself as much as I'm talking to Chuck, as much as I'm talking to John. I'm like thinking through that with you guys, and that is invaluable. If I tried to think through it by myself, I would never be able to think through it completely. That's my thought. So find a group, find a mastermind group, make sure you are in one. Otherwise, you're missing out on one of the biggest hacks to growing your business.
Mine would be pretty simple. Just figure out what's working and then do more of it. It's so simple, yet we ignore it so often. And we complicate things when that's really the answer to business is find one thing that works and then just repeat it, do more and more of it. Right. So if you can make $10, you can make $100.
Yeah, and my thought is, more along the lines of, what I wanted to do was to give myself the illusion of security, even if it was eventual security. And what it really boils down to is, the position I was in was uncomfortable. It was painful. It wasn't fun to be in, or, that I'm still in, I guess. And I mean, it's definitely getting better. I'm finding more sponsors and things are, looking good there. But yeah, when it gets unpleasant, I start looking for something else to do. And what I really need to do is just stabilize the pieces that I can, focus on the parts that are going to make the difference, and then push. And then once I have enough things stabilized, right, where it's systemized, automated, etc., then I can start looking at, okay, is this other thing really the thing that I want to do? And right now, I still love the idea. I really want to push forward with it. But yeah, the other thing is that idea will be there in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So if I can get all of this stuff bolted down in 6 months, and then I'm saying, yeah, this is kind of a reasonable next step for where I'm headed, I can still do it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, have a Merry Christmas and we'll see you next week.
Merry Christmas, guys.
All right.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.